Well, hello everyone out there in podcast land. It's another edition of the Six Dorans podcast and our second edition of our YouTube videos. I am your host, Jacob Sminted Sanders, and right below me is Jamie Selceus Christensen.
What up?
And then right below him, even lower, is Tanner Blitzerama Brelje. Hello to Selceus's wife.
Yeah,
hey,
hello,
get her to wave! She should wave, what the heck?
She feels bad that she came down, so she.
No, I don't care. If she ever comes in, who cares? You should actually tell her not to care.
I'll let her know.
You know, we once had, I think it was an episode where I'm pretty sure my aunt was a little drunk, which is Wayne's wife, my aunt. And so she came onto the podcast for like a 50-second segment on why you should vaccinate your kids. And
Isn't Wayne's wife your sister?
No. Wayne's my uncle.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Sorry. That would be weird. My bad.
No, so she was a PA. She's currently taking a hiatus, and she's actually doing comedy right now in Phoenix. She's a local comedian. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but she's on a hiatus right now from being a PA. She was a physician's assistant for a couple of years. But she went on a wrong drunken rant about why you should A, vaccinate your kids, and then B, why if you ever have the flu, you should never come to the hospital for having the flu. It was completely hysterical, and a total 1.5 minute distraction from what we were talking. We were talking about solo queue, I think, but she just randomly came in and made that rant, and it was the funniest thing ever. He just let it happen. He just gave her the mic, and it happened. It was amazing. So if your wife ever comes down, she has something to say to you. Personally, it's happened before.
Typically, it's just I'm going to bed, so like it probably wouldn't have been all that interesting. But
I'm going to bed. All right. Good
for
night.
the most part, when we're doing this, like she doesn't come down because she knows that we're doing it, and I guess she must have fallen asleep tonight or something, and she forgot, so she came down, and then I like turned around with my headset on. She sees the video probably up on my screen, and she's like, "Oh shit!" So,
no, it's totally fine. If she ever comes in, it's not a bother. We've had Wayne's dogs, we've had Wayne's wife, we've had my dogs, we've had my sister. I don't know. We've had a lot of interruptions before. It's not like we're the most professional podcast in the world, and we don't need to be.
All right, Tanner.
Speaking though,
who's coming into yours?
Oh, I don't fucking know. Probably like my cats eventually. I don't know. You'll probably hear like it sounds like somebody's trying to break into my door, and it'll just be my cats like furiously.
Or we might hear
smacking the
meow
doorknob
if you leave open the door.
Oh yeah. Quick note though about professionalism and all that other shit. So if you've tuned in today, you can kind of see stream looks a little bit better. Video looks a bit better, I should say. We're working on the streaming thing. Yes, I know my camera's blinking. Yes, I know it freezes every so often. We're still working on it, but hopefully this is an improvement, to say the least, from last week, especially because I wasn't a dumbass and did the audio correctly. So, hopefully this is a sign of good things in the future.
You know what I gotta say? I gotta say the editing for that first video was amazing.
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, I was just like, I was like, damn, this video is like really cobbled. I need to put something in the front. So
well, what was funny is like you have like the shopping music from Zelda in the background, and then you put when you say "bear with us," you literally put a bear on the screen, and I appreciate puns like that.
Well, there we go. I guess we're on to something there. But
yeah, the editing at the very beginning was impressive. I will say that.
Well, thank you.
Even like I recognize like as someone who's been edited videos as well, it wasn't hard to do. But like the execution in editing is all what editing is about. Like even if you have a really simplistic thing, if you execute it perfectly, it looks funny. So I just couldn't stop laughing when you said "bear with us." You put a fucking bear on the screen.
I'm gonna have to watch the video now.
Yeah, well, it's like the first 40 seconds. He goes like on a 40-second rant of why the video's terrible. So, anyways, I guess we should actually go to what we're here for, which is the LEC and the LCS playoffs. So, why don't we go there? Oh shit, this is NA.
Fun weekend of games.
LEC. Actually, I think a couple of the series were fun. I think some of the others were like lackluster. I feel. But I guess we'll get to that.
I guess so.
So the first day we had was Fnatic versus Splice, and if we're gonna talk lackluster, I kind of feel like this was one of them.
Really?
Yeah, really. I kind of expected more from Splice a little bit. I think I expected more of a fight, and I think I expected Kobe just to be like better. I do have to say that Game 4 was kind of nuts in the sense that Vizichachi indeed is a Shen main, and he is amazing at Shen. It's just kind of unfortunate that Shen is not meta. I think if Shen was meta, they probably win Game 4 and take it to Game 5, but, you know.
I don't remember that one. I remember Game 3.
No.
Game 3 was
sorry.
the...
I meant Game 3. My bad.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because
I
that one was like probably one of the most entertaining games of the entire weekend, between both LEC and NA, and it was awesome because these games were done while I was at work, and so when that happens, typically either I listen to the audio and just like don't watch the video, or I'll watch like one of the games over my lunch hour. And this Game 3 happened to be the one game this week, or at least that day, that I tuned into, and I was not disappointed because it looked like Fnatic had it well in hand, and Splice did an amazing job of holding them off. And it's unfortunate for Splice that Fnatic had already gotten to the Nexus, because if they would have maybe even had the Nexus turret still up, I think Splice was starting to make the comeback and could have potentially turned the game completely around if they kept, like, if, you know, Fnatic kept like feeding them kills one at a time, like they were doing. But Fnatic finally were like, we're not going to win a team fight. We just need to go for the balls to the wall and go for the Nexus. And they did that, and it worked out. Barely, but it worked out.
Yeah, that game was, I don't know, I had a lot of fun watching that game because, again, like you said, it was basically just Fnatic just slamming their head against the wall until it worked. Towards the end of the game, you could clearly see there's a great shot of Broxa after they attempt to get the Nexus and then barely don't get it again, of him just like head in hands, just like, what the hell do we have to do to actually push through this game? It was like, you know, such an insane ending to that game. A lot of fun personally for me. Game 4 is when we started to see more of like the Fnatic that we expected. By the way, in that Game 3, Bwipo just popped the hell off. I don't think Fnatic wins.
And that was after he kind of struggled a little bit in the first two games.
Right. So I mean, you know, I'm not too high on Bwipo personally, obviously, but great. I mean, as a person, not as a player. As a player, he's fantastic, and he definitely showed it today. So
he can be. Yeah. He can also overextend like a motherfucker. And
there were a lot of times
really
during this whole series where he looked kind of like a fish out of water sometimes. I mean, I kind of get that feel from Bwipo a lot. Like, he's either super on point all the time, or he just kind of looks a little lost on occasion. Like, he never really, like, I think they said it best during the series. He doesn't know how to like he doesn't lose gracefully. He doesn't lose his lane gracefully. It's either he goes down hard or he takes his lane.
In one person, he epitomizes vitality.
Oh jeez, I don't want to see Whip on vitality. Don't put that in my head.
No, I don't want to see that either. But like, that's exactly what we say about vitality, right? Like, they don't know how to lose gracefully. They either feed their asses off and get stomped, or they are playmakers and they hand it to the other team. There's not a lot of games where it's an in-between. So, real fast though, like, I guess to go back to Sanders' comment about this one being a little bit lackluster of a series, I guess. So, I don't fully agree, and part of the reason why is this third game, but it's also the two games before this. So, Fnatic in Game 1, if I remember correctly, they won it pretty handily, right?
Yep.
Like, Game 1 was not really a contest, but then and this is the reason why I guess I found the series enjoyable, is Splice didn't roll over. They came out in game 2 and they actually handed it right back. Like, they dominated Fnatic in game 2, and you see two teams going back and forth. Even if the first 2 games were stomps, I think that it says that the series is gonna be somewhat close. And then we saw that in game 3. It kind of came to a head, and all the things happened that we've already described. And I mean, after losing a game like that, you can't blame or fault Splice for, coming out in game 4 and not really being able to like answer back. Plus, if I remember correctly, Fnatic like really got the best of them in the draft on that game. Like, they were able to counter them pretty hard.
By the way, game 4 is what I was referencing for Shen, because he did play Shen in game 3, but game 4 was the one where I watched him like beat Whippo pretty handily. But again, Shen's not meta. You can put Vizichachi on one of his best champions, but the matter of the fact is this is a pro game, and if it's not meta and it's not a carry, more than likely it's not going to work. Like, when Reckless plays Sivir when Sivir's not meta, well, it's because it's fucking Reckless, and also Sivir's a carry, right? Shen is not a carry. Yeah. So, like, you could be killer at a tank, but if your tank's not meta, I don't expect you to win the game, and they didn't. So I think a part of it was they went for comfort picks, and they looked strong in their comfort picks, but ultimately Fnatic just kind of ran them over before, despite them being looking comfortable on it. So I kind of expected at least 3 or all 4 games to be like a fight from Splice, and that's not what it was, and I think that's why I felt underwhelmed, mostly because of game 1 and 4.
So I guess also just to like, in case anybody hasn't actually seen the game, to go back to the draft of the game 4. So Splice, I really commend them for doing this, but they tried to pull out something out of the ordinary, right? Like, they definitely do not have a meta comp, right? What they drafted was not a meta comp. Kobe ends up playing Vigar. I don't know if we've seen Vigar in this entire split. I know that we had seen him prior, but I haven't. I don't remember seeing him in any of these in the games this split. They do that though because Fnatic has already picked Vayne, and so they think that Vigar would be a really good pick into that. But Fnatic has last pick, and they end up shifting Vayne to the mid lane. Paying homage,
and they shift Lissandra to the top,
paying homage to Caps, their soldier who left, and Reckless picks Sivir, and Sivir is one of only a couple of champions that can actually hard counter Vigar, because the whole reason why you pick Vigar is his cage. Sivir has a spell shield that will completely negate that.
No,
so
I can just walk through the cage. Fuck you.
Exactly.
The so the ult too is just like negates like half of his damage.
If you see that ult coming your way, spell shield.
Yeah.
So they do that, and the other thing that negates is, like, I think that their thought process was anybody who gets caught in that cage, then they're saying easily hit with Hecarim, at full speed. And we saw that, because they weren't able to do that, Hecarim wasn't as successful. Plus, Hecarim has been, I think, more successful in top lane, at least in pro play, than in the jungle. So that was another thing. But just overall, Fnatic countered really, really well. They countered the draft of Splice, and so going in, Splice was already at a huge disadvantage, and they weren't able to really put up a fight this game. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting series overall for the most part.
I think I'll say Splice I think they showed up a little bit more than I thought they were going to be. I thought this wasn't going to be like much of anything. I thought this wasn't going to be much of a series in general. I thought Fnatic was probably just going to wipe them up pretty easily. So I think a lot of credit goes to Splice for, you know, showing up and making game 2 and 3, you know, the tough fights that they were. You know, the Vigar pick is questionable, especially because, you know, the Sivir is just such an easy like automatic counter pick for it. But nonetheless, you know, I think they overall played the series pretty well. I just think there's, you know, too much skill on Fnatic that, you know, it felt like Reckless. I mean, you know, at the beginning of the season, obviously, you know, Fnatic was just in the dumpster, but it really just seemed like he is. I mean, he's been playing like the world caliber AD carry that, you know, we all know. And, you know, he's really just like throughout the entirety of all 4 of these games, he was never like a non-factor, and he was always pushing the team forward. So, I mean, this Fnatic squad is scary. I think Splice gave it a really good shot here, but I mean, what can you say? I think Fnatic's just the better team.
I'd have to agree with that.
Me too. I don't think there was a question, and I mean, that's the reason why all of us picked Fnatic to win this, and it's probably, I would say that 99% of the people that actually picked this series going into it had Fnatic as the coming out the victor, and so it's not a surprise at all. Fnatic definitely was the better team, but I thought that Splice, you know, was Splice. I don't think that unless Splice does something fairly dramatic and like, I don't know. I think that these players are kind of where they are. Unless Kobe ascends to a level like we don't fully expect from him. Like, I think he's good, but I don't think that he's going to be double lift and reckless great, where he can kind of be who you focus a team around and he carries you to finals.
Yeah, that's fair. And
He's done it once.
That's
just
true.
Once though. It was G2 versus Splice, and I was so hoping Splice would win that, and G2 3-0'd them into the ground.
Yeah, I was disappointed to see him on. I mean, maybe this is some kind of pocket pick he has, but I was really kind of disappointed to see him on the Vigar going into this final, like what ended up being their final game, because, like, I don't know. I want to see him on an AD carry. I want to see him have a chance to lift his team, and I just don't see him doing that as much with Vigar. Obviously, it didn't happen, and I'm sure there are worlds where it could have happened, but that was a bit of a bummer.
I think the big thing was they were expecting Vayne bottom lane, and they thought Vigar's a great pick.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
that.
Yeah,
and then
when they picked it, that's exactly what they thought. Like,
then Fnatic adapted mid draft and was like, "Yo, Nemesis, you got to play Vayne."
I'm sure Nemesis wasn't upset about that either.
I don't think he was. He actually had a pretty good performance, but you know, that's kind of a thing to where you're probably thinking, you know, we got the Vayne bot lane with Reckless, right? And then suddenly they throw this huge counter pick, and Reckless is like, no, fuck that. I'm not playing Vayne bot lane. I'm pretty sure those were his exact words. He's like, nah, fuck that. and then the coach Fnatic was like, yeah, Vayne's going mid lane. They might have actually asked Whippo if he could have played it too, because you could put Vayne top lane as well. I'm sure it was.
I guarantee they didn't ask Whippo, because Whippo's answer would have been, "Fuck yeah, I can," and they would have given it to him.
I think it was a matter of like matchup in the top lane, and I think Lysandra. I think Lysandra's a fine control matchup against Shen, and I mean you could put Vayne against Shen, but it's not. It's not a guarantee.
Just condemn his taunt, and yeah, I think Vayne would have just as up top.
The other thing is Shen's W. You can't actually auto attack him when he's in that, and Vayne is all auto attacks.
Well, sure, but also Vayne doesn't have to stand in it with him, so Shen's not really getting anything out of that either.
No, but what I'm saying is like he probably wouldn't.
No, I get you. I'm just saying that if they actually asked Blippo would have been like, yeah, just we're good. Go ahead and do whatever else you need to do. I will play Vayne.
And the other matchup problem I have too is Lysandra's a better flanker. Usually your top lane is your flanker. So I think no matter what, your Lysandra was probably going top lane, even if there was a consideration to put Vayne top in the Lysandra mid. I think the matchups just ended up working better for you to have Lysandra in your top lane and
all I have to say to the Fnatic coaching staff is well done.
Yeah.
To be able to, like, it's last pick and you find a way to get a huge counter pick, and then for all the players to be comfortable in doing so.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done.
All right, so that's how that ended. Fnatic wins 3-1, as we said. The next series was not very good either. It was G2 versus Origin.
This one
And I would like to ask, will the real G2 and the real Origin please stand up? Because the Origin we thought going into this series didn't show up, and the G2 we kind of considered didn't show up here either. We saw the G2 of the first 9 weeks show up, and we saw the Origin of the first few weeks show up. In other words, G2 3-0 the Origin.
Apparently, I just like watching League of Legends because I disagree with you on one too.
Well, for me, the big thing here is that, like, I think game one was Origin's to lose. I will say that. I think Origin should have won game one, for sure.
Yeah, I was watching that game and I was like, I already knew that G2 had 3-0'd the series. But I was watching that game and I was like, how? How does Origin lose this game? Like, they are like in control. They are ahead. What happened? And just, I mean, G2 has the better players, so it's not you can't count them out, right? But like, I was surprised to see that when I saw 3-0, I thought it was a stomp. And for about 1.5 games, 1.25 games, I thought OG actually looked pretty darn good. And it was the entire first game and then the start of game 2. But from that moment on, G2 just stomped them.
In my opinion, game 2 and game 3 were a G2 stomp. Despite like the early lead that Origin had, if you don't do anything with your early lead, it doesn't mean anything. And they didn't do anything with it. And Origin and G2 fully took over game 2. And then even in game 3, they stomped Origin as well. Like I said, I think game 1 was Origin's to lose, and this probably should have been a 4-game series where G2 wins it 3-1. But that didn't happen. And the other thing, too, is both Perks and Caps had themselves a series. Perks actually played the AD carry position pretty well, and Caps popped off on Swain and Corky. And another big thing, too, is Cold was heavily shut down. Cold did not have a very good series. And when your jungler, the person who's supposed to impact the map across, the board, isn't having himself a good series, you have a very poor chance of winning. So I think a large part of this was Caps had himself a series, so he shuts down Nuke Duck. Perks actually had a decent AD carry series, so, he does better than Patrick and Mithy does, right? Mithy also embraced the meme of his Tom Kench, which has been going on for a long time. It's been going on ever since he was on G2, and it continued with TSM, and it's still continuing with Origin. Oh man. But when your mid lane and your bot lane is not doing well, and then your jungler is getting out jungled, I don't think there's really much of a chance for you to win the game. I think Alfari did okay, but even then, Wonder even had himself a series too. You know what?
I was gonna say, I'm glad that
G2 definitely had
I was waiting.
G2 had a series.
I was waiting for you to be done because I was like, yeah, don't forget Wonder. He played.
No, even Wonder had a series. No, you know what? Yeah, G2 just had a series, and they were clearly through the stream.
And the last thing that I'll mention is Mickey X. Like, we didn't know if he was gonna play because of his wrist issues, but he did play, and I think that also helped G2 because Perks hasn't been an AD carry for long, and he's been playing more with Mickey X than he had with Promiscuous. So I think having him back was probably good for not only Perks, but the team, because the team was more comfortable with him as well. And then, I mean, he also looked good, even though he had taken some time off. he mentioned, at least in the 3 games that they played, that in the interview that they had afterwards, that his wrist didn't really bother him. So unless something changes, I think it's likely that we see him again in their next series in the finals. So yeah, overall, like G2, there was, after the games were over, there's no way that anybody could say, other than game 1, OG had any business winning either of the other 2 games, but they were the better team by far, and they stomped the series. Even in the game that they probably shouldn't have won, they found a way, and that's what championship teams do. So
yeah, that's fair. I think the thing for me was going into this series, I thought that G2 was going to win, and I kind of said that because even though Origin's team play had looked up until this point really good, the pure skill from G2 just would probably outmatch them, and man, it was a little bit of a bummer to see Origin kind of fall apart like this. Obviously G2 is just a great team, and they've got all the best players that you could probably have for a team like this. And even with some of the greedy plays that they made, and they were still just always getting away with it because they're just that good. So to see him go 3-0 like this instead of 3-2, which is what I thought was gonna happen, like, man, that stinks, because Origins looked really great to watch, and it just kind of crumbles. So I don't know where they go from here. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but Origin now has to play against
Fnatic.
Yeah, which I don't think they're gonna do well in. Hopefully they look a bit better, but this was a bummer, because this had the potential to be such a really interesting, like, long series, and while it may have been interesting at points, like, I don't think this was the series any of us thought it was going to be, and that's a bummer.
I just
definitely wasn't. We all had 3-2s going for this series, so
I just realized with LEC's playoff format, if you make top 2, you're guaranteed to place top 3.
Correct.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
I guess that's.
No, I really like that. So I was gonna save this for, like, I was gonna ask the question probably like after next week. Like, so now that the games are done, what do you guys think of the LEC format compared to the NA format? But since you brought that up, there is one point that I wanted to make, and so I'm just gonna do it now. The one thing I do not like about the LEC format right now is that if you are the team who wins in this 1-2 match, you don't have the chance to lose like the other team does. So
what do you mean?
So this series happened, G2 won. OG now gets to go play again, and if they win, they still could win the championship.
I see what you mean.
Right?
So, like, it's not double elimination.
G2, they won, they go there, and if they lose, they lose. And they are second place. So I wish that they would do an actual, like, legitimate double elimination style from this round on. So whoever won in this series have a chance to lose the next series and not be punished.
So here's what I would say is, the way I view this match is, I don't view this match as semifinals. I view it as a match for who has to play in semifinals. Because
Right.
if you win, you don't technically have a semifinals. You just go to finals, right? And if you lose, then you have to play a semifinals, which is against the team who played in quarterfinals and then plays in the semifinals with you, which is Fnatic, right? So I don't see this as like a game that really determines like anything in the playoffs. It's almost like an exhibition match, is what I would call it. But like, if you win, your reward is you get to go to finals. If you lose, you now have to play in a semifinals matchup to make it to finals. That's kind of how I view it. And that's the reward for being first and second seed. is you play a match
that's
that
fair.
really doesn't matter that much, whether you win or lose. If you win, you go to finals, cool. If you lose, it's like, all right, we're still in it. Semifinals, gotta win semifinals. That's kind of how I view it. I do actually see your point, though, and I think it's a legitimate point. But I just don't see it as like a.
I get what you're
a
saying
doubleheader
too.
kind of thing.
I guess my thing is that this is one sport where it's actually beneficial to play more game. Like, I mean, it can be looked at as beneficial to play more games. There's obviously the downside of you have to show more while you're playing those games, and you're giving another team a chance to see what you've got to offer
and you have more chances to lose.
And prepare more. But whoever wins this OG Fnatic match has another series under their belt, another, high level practice on stage that they get to take to the final match against G2. And honestly, if there is a team, if there are two teams in the finals, that the team that is quote unquote the second place, right? The less powerful team, if they're only slightly worse than number one, I think that extra series goes a long way for them to potentially, I would not be surprised if 75% of those series in that scenario that I just mentioned, the 2 seed wins.
Well, I don't totally disagree with that.
Especially since they'll both be played in the big stadium, right?
Arena, yeah. Well, I don't totally disagree with you. I'm going to look at this from a coaching perspective and tell you that the first seed might like what they have because they can watch. They can watch strategies. They don't. It's not okay, let's watch. Let's just say Origin wins this, right? Let's just say Origin beats Fnatic, right? So Origin has to play G2 again. Origin just had to prepare for Fnatic. Now they have just a day to prepare for G2, because the very next day you play in finals, right?
Right.
G2 got to sit back, relax, and watch both teams, meaning they're very prepared to play both teams, because the coach can say, okay, if Origin wins, they're like, this is how Origin won, this is what they did, this is what we need to do to beat it, right? Whereas with Origin, they spent their entire time preparing for Fnatic, and now it's like, oh shit, we got to play G2 again, and we have 12 hours to prepare for it. That's not a lot of time.
Yeah, so I guess there's two things. One, I've heard that argument a lot, and this is, I guess, my counter to it, is that you, as G2, don't know who your opponent is either until that series is over. So yeah, you do get to watch. I get what you're saying.
But you get to watch both teams is the big thing. That's
right.
The advantage there. You get to watch both teams. So no matter who wins, you can be prepared for either strategies they're employing.
I mean, I get that, but there's still only 12 hours to implement that plan, right? You do get to watch them, sure. But at this point, you've kind of got film, I guess, quote unquote, on both of these teams. You probably have been scrimming both of these teams for a lot of the split because they are all the other powerful teams. So you know their tendencies, you know the champions they like to play. The only thing that's different potentially is a patch, right? So I don't think that it's quite as big of an advantage as you're giving it. I do think it is an advantage. I just don't think it's that big of one, because they also only have 12 hours to, like I said, implement the plan. And then number two is in the scenario specifically that you brought up, where OG wins against Fnatic. They just got done preparing for G2 for, an entire 2 weeks?
And it ended in a 3-0.
And I mean, yeah, it didn't go well for them, but they did focus on that team, that specific team that they're going to replay. And so some of the work, right, is done.
I don't think so, because you got 3-0'd. Your entire game plan got
it didn't go well.
You have to throw away whatever you game.
But I'm guessing that some of the stuff that they thought of actually applied to the series, even though they got stopped. Like
Maybe.
game one was close, right? We thought OG actually had them. So yeah, G2 ended up winning it, but does that mean that everything that they prepared for that game was wrong? No. So I don't know. I wish that I think that I'll continue to think this no matter who wins the split. Even if G2 comes in and 3-0s whoever they play. I still think that it would be nice to see the same advantage go to the team that wins the 1-2 matchup that goes to the loser of the 1-2 matchup.
I don't think losing is an advantage though. Because you have to play Fnatic.
I know, like there is risk. So like it's not
like you have to make it through another series. That's not an advantage at all, I don't think.
I think you're right, but if they do make it, then they had that advantage of the fact that they lost the series and they didn't go home like every other team.
But that's like supposed to be the reward for finishing top 2, right?
Right, and that's what I'm saying is the person who wins that series doesn't get that reward.
I think the reward though is you have an automatic ticket to finals. You had to play one series. Everyone else,
right?
Fnatic had to play 1, 2, 3 series,
and
then Origin had to play 2, and you only had to play 1.
But I don't. I guess ultimately that's mostly my argument.
And that's a shit ton of championship points for Worlds.
I think you're right. Every point that you're saying is accurate. I just don't think that it's as big of an advantage that you have to keep taking these breaks. And I think that about all sports. Like, teams that have buys stay in football. I don't know if that's necessarily as, like, big of a thing as a lot of... Like, in football, yes, you get a heal, and that's all. Like, that's the big thing.
A lot of it you get to rest up. You get to be fresh.
But the thing I don't like is that you're gonna play against a team that's kept the momentum. They've kept they've kept their routine. That's the word I was looking for. Your routine changes when you take breaks, right? Like these teams that are constantly playing, especially in a game that's not as physically demanding.
So before you finish this thought, because I know exactly where you're going with it, I want to tell you in the last 6 Super Bowls, it's always been a top 2 team from each conference. It's always been a bye team. I know what you're saying, but it's always been a bye team.
That's fine. That's probably like that's fair. How many times though has one of the 1 or 2 seeds in either of the conferences lost before the AFC and NFC championship game?
I mean, you're gonna have losers like, for example, Peyton Manning's Colts. They typically lost.
Right.
Phillip Rivers' Chargers, whenever they've had a bye, they've typically lost. But the last Super Bowl that had a non high seed winner was the Ravens and the 49ers. The 49ers were actually the number 2 seed, and Baltimore was the number 4 seed that year. So that was the last time. That was 6-7 years ago now. So like I totally like actually understand what you're saying, because I've had that argument in my head too. But I think, and this is totally different because it's football, a very physical sport. I think being fresh is super important. Like if Gronkowski never got his breaks in any of the years they went to the Super Bowl,
he would have retired 2 years ago.
Well, he just wouldn't be as healthy for the games, right? Like he may not perform as well. And getting a 2-week rest is super helpful for your body.
For sure.
League of Legends, on the other hand, I think it's just more time preparation. I certainly understand what you're saying because you get more games on a patch, and you might get a read on a counter or something like that. But I think specifically for this scenario, like if there was a week break between Origin and Fnatic, I think I'd be more on your side. But because you spent an entire week preparing for Fnatic, and if you beat Fnatic, then it's like, oh, well, shit, we got to play G2. Whereas G2, that entire week, they spent time looking at both Fnatic and Origin. They watched the series, and then they say, okay, this is how Fnatic won. Or they say, okay, this is how Origin. This is what we got to do to counter it. there's not so much of that for Fnatic or Origin in saying, okay, we got to play G2 tomorrow. We've only got 12 hours. We're not going to look at game film. We just got to play what we're strong at and hope we win.
Tanner, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't really have too many strong opinions on it yet, but just kind of as a interesting note, I guess I should add, is there is a precedent for this kind of tournament structure in MOBAs. In fact, the Dota Invitational.
Did Dota use it? Is it the SI, right?
Not just the SI, the actual the international that they have.
Sorry, TI. I meant TI. Not
TI. The TI does this exact format, and the only reason I know that was I was watching a video about different OG, and how they won that last year. But they have that exact same tournament structure that you see in LCS right now, and that's pretty normal for them. So maybe it's just one of those things where we're just gonna have to see how it goes and get used to it. But on the contrary, you have other esports most fighting games have winners brackets, losers brackets, and you end up having to lose twice.
You have a double header,
right? You have to lose twice.
First person shooters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're from the winners bracket and you lose the finals, the bracket's just reset.
Yeah, the bracket reset. So
yeah,
it's just interesting, but I guess we'll see. I think time will help a lot in deciding whether if it's good or not. But
all right, so we need to predict Fnatic Origin, and then
real fast before we do that. So I wanna end this conversation with, I think that we both see each other's points, and we don't necessarily disagree with one another, because I certainly don't disagree with the points you're making,
and I don't disagree with yours either.
I would love, at this point, I'm going to take the opportunity to throw it out to the viewers in our Discord. I would love if anybody has any opinions on this topic. This would be a perfect thing to throw in the esports tab. We've had a couple of pretty good conversations about Forgiven recently that I've been enjoying. So I think this is a topic that if you have an opinion on, throw it in there, and you'll probably get some interaction with us.
Okay, so before we do our predictions, though, I wanted to ask one final question on this topic. Do we think this is better than the LCS? Because as much as I hated it in January, actually a lot more than how the LCS is being done.
I will definitively say yes, and the reason why is it really has nothing to do with the change in format as much as NA only has one game this weekend because there's no third place match, and this format alleviates that problem because whoever wins in the OG Fnatic, or whoever loses in the OG Fnatic match, is the third place team. So yeah, I definitely like this format better.
Yeah. Well, how NA is doing it is they I looked at the new rule changes in the LC manual. They have a PDF for it on riotgames.com in their esports section. They changed it now to where they're not doing a third and fourth place match unless there's a tiebreaker between who would get third and fourth. So, for example, FlyQuest and Cloud9 were left, but Cloud9 had better standings in the regular season, so they're going to automatically get third place, and they get to go to Rift Rivals. And third and fourth place both get 40 points. So it doesn't matter if you finish third or fourth, you get the same amount of points. The only accolade, quotes around accolade, is that you get to go to Rift Rivals, which sucks for NA and EU because neither region is taking Rift Rivals seriously years, which sucks because when you watch LCK, LPL, LMS, Japan, and I forget the fifth region that's part of that Rift Rivals, they take it super seriously. It is an incredible event to watch. Last year's Rift Rivals with China, Korea, LMS, Japan was amazing. There was a 7th place Chinese team. They were 7th place in the summer split who made it because they got third at China in spring. And so they were heavy underdogs, and they ended up beating KT Rolster. And they had to win in order to reset things for China to even have a chance
Yeah,
of
it was
winning.
really awesome to watch.
It was amazing. The mid laner, he played. Oh, I forget what he fucking played. I think
Kled.
played Kled mid. That's what it was. And it was a pocket pick of his, and he absolutely stomped the game at the very end.
He was so
At
excited.
the Nexus was going down, he like threw down his helmet, like screamed at the crowd.
Threw his helmet down. He had a helmet on.
No, his headset. My bad. It was one of those moments. It was like one of those genuine sports moments, where like if you get a walk-off home run, you throw the bat and you walk the base.
Right.
You don't run it. You walk it and you bask in your glory because you just got a walk-off home run. Stephon Diggs in the Minnesota Miracle versus the Saints, when he got that touchdown, he just threw his helmet to the side and put his arms out like this to the crowd, basking in the glory of winning in a walk-off touchdown, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly what the mid laner did. He played this really risky pick, paid off, and he screamed at the crowd saying, "This is China. This is what we do. We got one more game to win, and we win Rift Rival."
It was amazing. Intense. Yeah, I'm with you. I wish that all regions would take Rift Rivals as seriously as the Korean, Chinese. What's the other one? There's 3 of them.
I thought there was 4. Maybe there's only
I think 3. There's only 3. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That one's amazing. I wish all of them would be that.
I will say Turkey's, Mexico's, and Brazil's, because they have theirs together. Theirs is a lot of fun to watch, too. Of course, Mexico, Brazil, and Turkey are all countries that have a lot of pride in competitiveness, mostly soccer, but they have a lot of competitiveness, so of course those teams are going to bring it. It's just kind of the culture those teams have. And it really sucks that like when you watch NA-EU, it's not like NA's won once and EU's won once, and neither time felt that great, honestly. Like when NA won, it was like woo, NA great, but there was nothing that really came out of it. And then when EU won, it was like ooh, EU, nothing really came out. So while it's cool that Cloud9 gets to be an MSI, kind of who cares? Because you got the same amount of championship points as FlyQuest, who finished 4th. So unless they tie in the standings, we won't ever have a 3rd or 4th place match with the current format. The head of LCS did say that they're closely watching the LEC playoff format and they may adopt it in summer. So we'll see.
From what I've heard, I guess I would be surprised if they choose not to, because I think most people are enjoying the LEC format.
All right, so let's get to our actual predictions for the LEC.
This is going to be interesting because we don't know one side of the final.
Yeah, we don't know finals.
Should we make 2 separate predictions, like on the grounds that it's Fnatic versus G2, or on the grounds that it's OG versus G2, or do we have to double deck our predictions?
In the past, we've double decked it, but I mean, if we double deck it, there's more risk to how many points you can get, right?
Yeah,
but then semifinals pick, if you get technically, if you get your semifinals pick wrong and you still pick G2, you can get your finals pick right.
Right.
That's kind of interesting. But if you pick Fnatic, let's say you pick Fnatic and they lose, and you pick Fnatic to win finals.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got 0 on up front, right?
You just got March Madness.
Yeah, you did get March Madness. So, for the sake of points, do you want to do 2, or do you want to double down on?
I'm okay with doubling down. That sounds fun.
You're okay. Okay, we'll double down. Cool. That's what we've done in the past. So, all right. So the first one's Fnatic versus Origin. As usual, I go first, but that's not going to happen this time. Selceus.
Passing the buck, huh?
I am passing the buck, and here's why. I always take the first match, but the thing is, the first match I feel like is always easy, and then you guys get the hard ones. In my opinion, this is easy. Maybe it's not for you guys.
No,
in my opinion, it's easy. So I'm going to give you an easy one. Fnatic.
I think it's pretty easy too. I'm going to go with Fnatic. The only debate I have is whether it's going to be a 3-0 or whether OG is going to show up and take a game. Splice was able to take a game. I believe that OG is better than they showed against G2. So I think I'm going to go 3-1.
Cool.
Tanner?
It's Fnatic winning. I'm just trying to think about how they do it. Man, OG looked not great.
It looked bad.
Oh, Fnatic is so good too. They really are just that good. Fuck it, yeah, 3-0 Fnatic. If OG plays like they did this weekend, I don't see it changing.
Okay, so I look at the matchups, and I see Blippo and Alfari. I think Blippo wins that. I see Broxa and Cold. I give it to Broxa. I see Caps, and I see Nuke Duck. I give it to Caps.
You don't see Caps. You see Nemesis.
Damn it!
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh, I was thinking Fnatic Catcher. I still give it to Nemesis though, because Nemesis has. Well, the thing is like Nemesis actually had a statement series in the quarterfinals of LEC, and then he only continued that with Splice, and he adapted to the draft with Vayne. I don't think Nemesis is a Vayne player whatsoever, but he adapted pretty well. I mean, he's probably a champion he's prepared and played, but I imagine it's not something you're going to go into
wheelhouse for sure.
Well, it's not something you're going to go into your series and say we're playing Vayne mid at least one game, right? No, it's well, shit. The draft kind of got fucked up. Nemesis, we know you can at least get through with it. And then, are you ever going to get bet against Fnatic's bot lane? Is that even a question?
If it was
especially now that you know,
maybe, but you know,
especially now that you know Patrick is who he is.
I mean, I still like how Patrick and Mithy have been doing like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
is Mithy gonna keep playing Tom Kench?
Holy shit, probably. He hasn't stopped.
Well, then nope, you don't pick against Fnatic.
He hasn't stopped. So I mean, I look at all the matchups and I think there's one that can maybe go in favor. It's just the top lane, and even then, I think those got it. So yeah, I'm going Fnatic 3-0 as well.
I think there's two that can go in. I think Nuke Duck could. Like, Nuke Duck has proven that he can be a pretty damn good player. And Nemesis is still new. Even though I do agree with you, Nemesis during Fnatic's like winning streak here has looked phenomenal. So.
And also, I mean, like you just said, there was that week where Nuke Duck just out of nowhere obliterated Caps. Obviously, different team, but you know, he's got it in him. So, but I still don't think that's enough.
He got a counter pick with Zed.
That's true, but I mean, that
still
clip
could
of him
happen.
just popping Caps was like, something else to watch.
A, it was a counter pick. B, it was a champion no one ever fucking sees. Like, props to Nuke Duck for it because Nuke Duck's got a huge pool, but that's almost cheese. That's
the thing is, though, that I remember in this series, like in this G2 series, the casters were talking about like G2 potentially having to ban Zed. So, like, I think that, you know, don't take anything away from Nuke Duck's Champion Ocean because he is.
Did you take that from the rap battle?
No, but there was a rap battle.
That was another good promotion.
Tanner, you didn't see the rap battle?
No.
Gotta watch.
Oh my god, there's a rap battle between Vedius and I forget who.
Dracos.
Vedius is representing Origin, and Dracos is representing G2. And then Jox comes in for the last 4 lines, and she fucking throws the hammer down. It's called Mediocre Rap Battle. Just type it in.
It's the second one they've done too. So they've done 2.
Yeah,
I got some catching up to do apparently.
The thing that's really funny about it is it's actually not that bad. Like they call it Mediocre Rap Battle. It's
not amazing, but it's also not horrible.
No, it's not horrible.
So that's why they call it. That's why they call it mediocre, though.
I'm not gonna lie. There's some fire tracks. Like there's one where it talks about It talked about Caps' champion pool, and it's like you might want to talk about his pool, but Nuke Duck's got the ocean, and then it goes on and on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because Nuke Duck, I think, has played the most.
Oh yeah.
There's some good one-liners in there, that's for sure. But they also definitely are not good rappers.
Oh yeah, they don't flow that well. So.
The thing that I really want to see is they've started saying that Dracos needs to do one of these with Captain Flower.
Dude.
And you know how fucking awesome that would be?
MSI, that would be amazing.
That would be so awesome. I hope they do.
That would be something.
So, anyways, Tanner, after the podcast, you gotta look this shit up.
I guess I will.
That's good.
It's not that bad actually. There's a reason they call it mediocre rap battle, but there are some lines in there where I'm like, damn, they actually said that. These are supposed to be, they're supposed to be casters that are supposed to be unbiased, and then they like totally shit on these teams, and I'm like, oh my god. So
Yeah.
all right, we got our predictions in. So now that we got predictions and we're all picking Fnatic, that means we all think it's gonna be G2 Fnatic, which means we're all mostly fucked if Fnatic doesn't win.
Yep. Who's
Tanner?
also going to be
do I have to
the
pick
bold
first?
one that picks Fnatic to win this, and then they're really fucked if Fnatic loses?
Tanner, you're up next. You got G2 Fnatic. What you got, bud? And he's like, ah, shit.
Fnatic 3-1.
Ooh,
Oh, that's spicy, and I like it.
it's spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like on a skill level, you know, obviously Caps is probably going to do what he can to try to body Nemesis, but I mean, Reckless is just if Reckless doesn't run over Perks, I mean, obviously Perks has been playing well in his role. If that doesn't happen though, I'm going to be shocked. I think Fnatic has looked better as just like a team, as a unit, whereas G2 has got all the pieces, they just haven't put the puzzle together. Meanwhile, Fnatic has assembled that puzzle and has put more puzzles on top of them, constantly stacking their puzzles. It's like
The puzzle.
It's rough because like going into this season, I would have never thought that this would be our finals, which we don't know if it is, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be.
I thought we all agreed it would be I remember you guys placed G2 as your number one, and I placed Fnatic as your number one.
That's actually you're right. You're right. Going into the season,
you both placed Fnatic number 2, didn't you?
Going into the season,
I think he meant like 3 weeks in.
Right.
After a few weeks when they were 1-5.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Fnatic just looks like the more complete team. I'm really liking how they've all been playing. Whippo's been playing really well. Broxah seems to get his game back. Like, everybody's just playing so well, and
They're
I don't
synergizing.
know. There were still moments during the G2 Origin series where even though they were winning by like a shit ton, G2 still kind of like flexed a little bit and like made plays and made chases and all these different things that didn't look like they were cohesive and more of just like hunting kills like you would in solo queue almost. Like, it just doesn't give me a good feeling about what happens when they run up against, you know, the machine so far that has become Fnatic. So I think Fnatic will win 3-1. And I could be totally wrong, because we're totally wrong about the Origin thing putting up a fight. So maybe G2 is a lot better than we think they are. But I don't know. Fnatic. There you go.
Alright, so I gotta go next too. I had my mind made up a couple. I'm picking Fnatic. I have them winning the whole thing.
I cannot believe this.
Well, okay, so this isn't my ego talking because I picked
No, I
Fnatic
can't believe
to-
this because I think I'm gonna pick 2. I haven't fully decided, but I think that we're all going to be the same on this.
So I still have the same issues I had with G2 at the very beginning, and Tanner kind of covered them. And it's that they're not a team, in my opinion. They're a bunch of really individual superstar talents, all in each role, and they've been winning that way for a long time now. And they haven't been winning as a team. They have yet to have a team win. They've yet to have this wombo combo. You know, we're gonna make this team fight team where like if one of us fucks up, it doesn't work, right? Like if you have a Jarvan Galio support, a Jarvan jungle Galio support, Lissandra mid, and fuck it, put whoever you want to top lane, Gangplank or whatever. The top lane doesn't really matter. You usually just need a jungle mid and support coordination. If Jarvan fucks up his entrance, right, you can't Galio ult, right? Or if Lissandra fucks up her entrance, you can't Galio ult. Or if Lissandra goes in and the Galio support thinks, oh shit, I gotta go in, but it was a bad entrance, and then Jarvan's not going to follow up because he knows that you've lost 2 members to 3v5, right? But when you execute it, you've won the fight. Jarvan goes in, gets that ultimate. No one can get out of the walls unless you flash. Galio gets in. The Lissandra goes in. She gets like a 2 or 3 man W. Maybe ults the AD carry. whatever it may be, you've locked up 3 to 4 people for at least 5 to 6 seconds in your top lane Gangplank, or I don't know, Sion. Who else is being played besides those two?
Cho'Gath a little bit.
Cho'Gath a little bit, yeah. But that's I'm thinking like more carry-esque than just
Akali.
like more tank CC.
Brelje.
Kali. But but then you got your Sivir, your Ashe, your like all these people who can do AoE damage.
Kennen.
Like, yeah, Kennen. Yeah, Kennen's a good one. He's a lot of AoE damage and more CC. And then you just got the AD carry free shooting everyone because they've all been locked up for a long time. And if they haven't been locked up, they're behind the people that are locked up and can't access your AD carry.
And Reckless is really good at that.
So
I don't know if you know that, but he is.
What I'm saying is G2 hasn't done that yet. I have no idea if they can. They probably can. They're a bunch of superstar players. Why couldn't they? But they haven't shown it yet, and I know Fnatic can. They're just a better team, in my opinion. I think Fnatic is one of those cases where, like, Fnatic has a lot of good players, but their play is greater than the sum of their pieces, right? And G2 is playing to what their pieces are and not the sum of their pieces.
So what's your score line?
3-1 as well.
Okay. So I've been trying to think of a way to say G2. Because they have been the dominant team throughout. They have a team full of superstars. They looked really good against OG when we all thought OG was going to be a lot better than they were in this series. And so is that just G2 being better than we expected and, being just head or leagues above, that's the word, I think, leagues above OG when OG is actually as good as we thought? Or is that OG shit the bed and G2 didn't really have much, didn't have to try too hard to win the series as handily as they did? That being said, I can't definitively answer those questions. What I can answer is Fnatic has looked really good. Fnatic in the last game that they played G2 won. Even though G2 did make it hard on them. Whippo has shown that he actually, I think, has Wonder's number a little bit. So even though I think very highly of Wonder, I'm not always the biggest fan of Whippo, I think that Whippo can be Wonder's kryptonite. I think the fact that Fnatic knows Caps as well as they do, they know his tendencies, that they can actually punish him very heavily throughout the games. And Perks has played really well for his first split of being an AD carry, but I don't expect him to come in and be able to AD carry against Reckless. The one silver lining that I have for that matchup is Perks also knows how to play a lot of unconventional AD carries. Lots of mages that could be played down there. And if they do that, I could definitely see him being very successful against somebody who we saw can't play mages in Reckless, and I think would struggle against in some of those matchups. So I think that that's a silver lining for G2 that I can mention. But overall, I think that Fnatic looks strong enough to negate the individual power of G2. I think that G2 has done some team play. I think they've done more of it than you're giving them credit for, Sanders, but I don't think I do think that they rely a lot on. So, with that being said, I put really everything in favor of Fnatic. So I'm gonna pick them, which is just mind-boggling to me that we're all picking them. I think I'm gonna pick the same scoreline as you guys. No, I will give this a close series. I'm gonna pick 3-2. Like I said, G2, even in their last game, even though they had no business winning it or really even being in it, they were able to find a way to stall out that game and give Fnatic a scare. And they did win their first matchup in the fastest game of EU history. So I think that G2 can stay with them, but overall I think Fnatic's better, and I'm going to give them the series. Yeah, 3-2.
All right.
I had something else I was going to say, but I forgot, which is why I kind of stalled there at the end.
Okay, before we get to NA, what are our scores?
I don't know if I actually calculated this into the EU, so I just have the I think I just have it in the overall scores. Yeah, I don't have it. It looks like in.
That's fine. I just want to know our overall score.
All right, so the overall scores: Sanders is still in the lead with 127 correct picks to 69 incorrect. I'm 119 to 77. Blitz is 121 to 75, and then unfortunately the community doesn't have the playoffs, so they're still sitting at their regular season final tally.
Gotcha. Alrighty then. So let's move on to our side of the pond with NA. We're gonna do this out of order. We're gonna talk about the better series last. We're gonna talk about the worst series first. The first series we're gonna talk about is Team Liquid versus. I had a lot of hope for this series because FlyQuest gave Team Liquid really tough outs both times they played them.
In fact, they won one of them.
And they won the second one, right? So I definitely thought this would be maybe even a 3-2, but I bet on 3-1 with our picks. And the first game was nutty. Team Liquid vs. FlyQuest was so much fun the first game. They played the Sonataric bot lane, which has been getting really popular lately. And the reason it's so popular is because it's a lane that abuses the mage support item, basically the one that spell thieves. Yeah, you could still abuse it, but you need to be bot lane to abuse it, right? So. Yep. But the thing that they're abusing here now, along with the Spell Thief gold, is that both Sona and Taric give healing and shielding. When Sona heals, she gives you a shield and a heal. And when Taric gives you a heal, he can also give you a shield with his W as well. So there's a lot of damage prevention, and if you have poke, forget it. You're not going to beat this team, or beat this bot lane, right? And especially when it comes to team fights as well. If you're someone who's like, if they're just like, you're trying to slow push a lane and you're trying to poke out the enemy team, forget it. They have Taric and Sona. Not going to happen. And in this case, Team Liquid also got an Ocean Drake, which is also cheating, I feel. Because that means unlimited mana for Sona and Taric to sustain in the lane, right? Like, that's just cheating to me, in my opinion. And what you do is Sona gets most of her gold. She gets some of her gold through farming, but she gets most of her gold through just poking with Q. And Taric picks up the minions with his Relic Shield.
And he just picks up minions other than that too.
Yeah, because Sona's
while Sona is getting her stacks on by poking. Yep.
Yes, and Sona's auto attacks are very weak, so it's hard for her to last hit. Taric has a double last hit whenever he uses an ability, so it's easier for him to last hit. Sona too. So Taric gets more of the last hits, but I think when we watched it, because C9 did this strategy too. When Sneaky did it, I think Sneaky was like 900 gold under, 800 gold. It was a pretty significant amount, and when Doublelift did it, he was only 300 gold behind. That's not too much. It's kind of a significant amount, but it's not like enough for you to like reject the strategy, because it's a lane that almost guarantees you don't die in it. Play safely. And as long as your jungler is giving a lot of pressure, you're not going to lose. And Xmithy did a good job. Jensen did a good job. And
Well, and the other thing too is, like if you remember when top lane was using it, I believe the same thing applies. Where once you've gotten to the stacks, you no longer only poke. You then also get to farm. So, once you get to the upgraded item, then you can start farming as well as poking and getting gold for all that. Plus, if I remember correctly, isn't Sona also running Klepto?
Yeah, Sona is
I
running
could be wrong, but
Yeah,
Sona is she is running Klepto.
but yeah. So like, there's lots of ways to generate gold, and just like when the top lane thing was happening, you typically, unless you can completely push people off of the wave, which in the bot lane you can't do as easily because you're also playing against ranged. You will fall behind if they can farm, but you get to a point where you make up that gold because you can start farming as well as poking as well as getting your klepto and all that stuff, and it just, you make up the gold fairly quickly, I would say.
Yeah. So they did that strategy. FlyQuest actually had a really good start to game one.
Yeah.
I actually thought they were going to win this game.
But
So
that was like, that's the whole thing with the Sona Tark.
The Sona Tark thing is it's an ever scaling bot lane because Sona actually, believe it or not, you play Sona support and you play support items, you're doing it wrong in my opinion. You should build Redemption, but that's it. After that you should be building Twin Ghosts, which is technically a support item, but it gives you AP. You should be building Lichbane, and you should be building probably Ardent Sensor. These are all damage items. Now, Twin Ghosts and Ardent Sensor don't give you that much AP, but they give you a decent amount, and they give you some support tools, right? Like with the Twin Ghosts and Ardent Sensor giving you to carry some things, and your one support item's Redemption, right? But Sona deals a fuck ton of damage. Her ratios are really good. Her empowered Q, and if you don't know, every 4 spells, I think is what it is, you get an empowered auto attack based upon your last ability. So if you do a Q, you get extra bonus magic damage on your next auto attack, and with Lichbane, it is a nutty amount of damage. You have health and 80 carry. It's ridiculous. If you cast your W, I think it reduces their attack speed. I think it reduces their attack speed if you hit them, and if you use E, which is her speed up, if you auto attack them with the empowered core after using E, you slow them for I think 30% or something like that. There's actually a lot of hidden power in Sona's kit that people don't realize. They just use her Q and they go for her damage, and that's it. But you can actually set up an easy gank with her E, because it gives a 30% slow, which is really nice for when a jungler's coming in. A lot of people don't know that though, because they're just like, oh, I'm going to press Q and deal a fuck ton of damage. No, well, it's probably more useful if you get the slow. And if you get the slow too, it's a lot easier to land your. There's many things about Sona's kit that a lot of people don't know about, but I went on a Sona. But you should be building damage, in my opinion, if you're playing. You shouldn't be building full support. She's a champion that can do both. Like kind of like Lux support. You build like one support item on Lux, then you build full damage from it. Same kind of thing with Sona. But in this case, because Double Lift played Sona and he's the carry or AP carry, I would say in this case. He built, once he got Lichbane, he was pretty solid. He could take down turrets because he has Lichbane. He could half shot someone because he has Lichbane. He has a lot of usefulness. So, and Impact had himself a series as well.
Yeah, he did. He was the impact player of the game or the series.
Yeah. So game one was really that just like Sona Tarek scaled, because Sona scales easily, and then Tarek just throws his ultimate down, no one dies.
So real fast, going back to the gold of that thing, or the gold discussion that we were having, Double Lift ended the game almost being Flame Horizoned by Wild Turtle. He was down by 87 CS, but he was ahead 2.1 thousand, like 2,100 gold. So yeah. That tells you, I guess, what we were talking about. in the fact that there's a lot of ways to generate gold, not just killing minions.
Yep.
And that Flame Horizon was made up for by Core JJ. He was 94 CS ahead of JJ. So, but Tanner, this is your team. So, do you have any thoughts on this game, this series?
Yeah, I guess my thought is a feeling of instilled confidence in Team Liquid. Because basically, I mean, how the season started this year was a lot of the times you'd have TL looking like they're going to lose these games or at least have like some trouble, at least early in the game, and then just find a way to like, you know, be professional, stay together, find the right picks, find the right fights, and then slowly but surely turn the game in their favor. And in game one, I had a bad feeling of, you know, like I thought they were going to lose it. And then I got a glimpse of that old kind of Team Liquid, the old, hey, you know, play this slowly, make the right choices, keep going. Aided a little bit by a couple of baboonish calls from FlyQuest, but I think they looked really good. And then they continued that into the other games. I think a lot of the fights that happened were like good measured fights that like Team Liquid, like it looked like the Team Liquid from earlier this year, which I'm happy to see, because I was definitely afraid of that, especially considering they had a bye, and especially considering we didn't know what kind of Team Liquid was going to show up. So I'm excited as a fan. I'm sure you're excited too, Selceus, for your team, but
I don't know what you're talking about.
But I'm excited. I'm hopeful. Everybody looked really good, and especially considering that, you know, somebody who I think has faltered a little bit, Impact, had such a great series. To see that happen, and also to see Xmithy so on point too, like it feels like a lot of the stuff that, you know, was a good big cause for concern earlier has been remedied. So hopeful. But
with your Impact.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm hopeful. I don't feel like I have in the past where, you know, I feel like the team's just gonna roll in and stomp. I'm hopeful though. They look a lot better. This is definitely, you know, a team that I'm excited to see in finals.
With your Impact comment, I have to insert here my apologies to Impact. I forgot that he's a different person when playoffs happen.
Playoffs.
Because going into this series, I remember saying that I thought that Viper was going to be just fine in that series. And to be honest, in this game one that we kind of were starting to talk about, Viper had a hell of a game, but Impact is a different player in the playoffs, and we got to keep that in mind because he was amazing. He looked like what you expect to see from Impact, which is why it's so hard in the regular season when you see him not playing like this to like think, you know, is Huni happening again? Like, but then the playoffs come, and I just think that he gets bored in the regular season.
That could be.
He's like, man, fuck this shit.
Like they're already so
I'm a
far
former
ahead.
world champion. What am I doing?
It's the only thing I can think of because, man, he looks completely different in the playoffs.
I feel like when he does regular season NA, he's like, man, I'm a fucking former world champion. What am I doing here?
Yep.
So there was another comment I wanted to make on this series. Is game one was a little shaky, Liquid, but game 2 and 3 were super clean. They were extremely clean by Team Liquid. I think Team Liquid played the most clean League of Legends, probably of every team we watched this weekend, including in Europe. Part of that is quality of competition. Part of it, not all of it. I would like to give a shout out to Viper though in game 2. I feel really bad for him because he got counterpicked by the Jace, right? He was getting beat by I think 20-something CS, and he saw a point where he could make a play. And if he makes that play, he gets to turn around his lane because he gets Hextech Gunblade and he can fuck over Jace, right? And he goes in on Xmithy playing Skarner. Now Skarner's not really tanky at this point. And I feel so bad for him because he got so unlucky that Zoe managed to pick up an exhaust as Jensen was walking. to respond to it.
Oh yeah.
And he just immediately exhausted Viper's Akali as soon as he went for the second strike, which would have killed the Skarner by the way. It would have been an automatic 2v2 because the top laner came. So it would have been Jace and Zoe versus Santorin and Nocturne and Viper. Now Nocturne has ultimate. This could easily go to their favor, right? Depending on if Jansen lands a bubble or not. But in darkness, you're kind of guessing on the bubble. You probably, and even then, Nocturne has a spell shield, so you might not get it anyway.
Right.
I think this game might go differently if that play and that small amount of RNG doesn't favor. But I did want to give a shout out to Viper for recognizing he needed to make that play. It's just really, really unlucky that the Zoe picked up an exhaust from a minion and exhausted him. Because if that doesn't happen, Skarner dies. It's 2v2. Who knows how the 2v2 goes? But Viper has a kill and gold in his pocket.
Right. So I've got two more, I guess, quick comments to close this out, and then I think we can move on to the other series, unless you guys have something else.
Yep.
But with your point there about Viper trying to make that play, that's something that we saw not only FlyQuest do, but multiple teams, is not just sitting there and watching the other team beat them. I loved seeing some proactive decision making to try and bring back something from the pits of defeat. Like, if Viper wouldn't have tried doing this, like Sanders said, then what happens? He just continues sitting there getting his shit kicked in by Impact. He has zero impact on the game. Unintentional. But like, he isn't able to do anything. High impact character, and again, I need to find a different for Impact. But anyway, so like I commend that. I commend seeing more than just FlyQuest do this. I commend all the teams that try to come back by making a play, like in an opening that they see, and even if it doesn't work out, which probably more often than not it doesn't, because they're behind, but you have to try, and I loved seeing that. My other comment is I feel bad for Pobelter. He was up against his former team and had a really bad series, getting solo killed by the person who replaced him multiple times.
Feels bad, man.
Like,
feels bad.
I mean, if you're TL, you probably are like, this is why we made the change, and you feel good about it, and you should. But Pobelter's a nice guy from what you can see. Like,
he's always been super humble. He's never been.
And so you feel for him a little bit watching that happen to him.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to say on that.
Anything else you got on this series, Tanner? You are the fanboy.
I'm excited. That's all I can really say.
I
feel a lot better. I feel a lot better now than I did a couple weeks ago about this team. I'll just say that. It's a closer.
And I think that's fair.
All right. Well, do we want to move on to the actual series for this week?
So Sanders, I'm just gonna let you know, I'm gonna talk about TSM this week.
Oh shit.
Well, duh. No shit. No.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Anyway.
Such a series.
I think I'm definitely gonna have a pessimistic view on this one. So I'm gonna let you guys go because I think you're gonna have a way more positive view on.
So I'll start.
No. Selceus doesn't go first. He's the TSM fanboy. Tanner, you go first. What did you think of this series?
It was a very, very entertaining series to watch. As somebody who kind of like has kind of a C9 fandom in my back pocket, just a little bit of Sneaky and those boys. Like it was a heartbreaker a little bit to watch, but it was a really good series. Like, man, what happened? Fuck, what happened? What happened? C9 looked so good in those first 2 games. They really looked so good. Like, I legitimately, like, you know how we were talking about, I forget who it was from Europe. Was it Yankos that made the predictions or something? Yeah, and he went to bed.
He said Cloud9 would win. He went to bed at the end of the 2-0.
Yeah.
Like, I knew Cloud9 would win.
I walked away at, like, the end of the 2-0 when it was live, because I was like, it's in the bag. They've done it. And then...
I'll tell you what happened.
Bjergsen ascends to like god status, and just carries TSM. He's just like, nah.
He didn't ascend. He reminded people that that's his perch.
I don't think I can't gush about it as well as you are going to be Selceus. So crazy series, a lot of fun.
Is Bjergsen's kingdom. It really is.
Jesus Christ, that was insane.
Oh man.
So. Is there anything else you got, Tanner?
No,
Such a good series.
I don't want to steal Celsius thunder, so by all means, go for it.
Before Celsius goes, I have one comment.
Why are you making me wait, Sanders?
No, this epitomizes. I think it goes with what Tanner said. It epitomizes what I think of the series. Is Meteos put out a statement saying, "I'm gonna rewatch the C9 versus TSM series and hope that Cloud9 wins this time like they should have."
Oh, I saw that. I thought it was funny,
it was
too.
So funny. Anyways, go on. What you think about the series?
All right, so I'm not just gonna gush over TSM. I know it's surprising because I've actually criticized TSM probably more than I've praised them this split when I've talked about them. If you go back and listen.
No, it's true. You like to criticize your own team.
I don't like to get my hopes up.
One of those fanboys. One of those fanboys, the one.
No, okay.
Like
so you want to?
He's like a Star Wars fan. Whenever a new Star Wars movie.
You want to know why? It's for a good reason. Because if they lose, then you're not as disappointed. But if they win, then you haven't put like so much hype into it that it's actually even more exciting.
Yeah, but is it? Yeah, I was gonna say, is it as fulfilling when it does happen?
Yes, it's more fulfilling because
I guess the difference
you're not going in expecting it.
I guess the difference is Tanner expects to win with TL right now because they've been a dark force, and here he is thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm pretty excited for my team in finals." And Celsius over here is like, "TSM is in finals!"
Yeah, no, trust me. If this was like 4 years ago, Curse, I would be like, jumping up and down, and like just like, "Holy shit, guys, we got a chance!" Like,
and this is only after 1 year of them not being in final, right? So like, anyway, this is what I thought about this series. If you go and look at our Discord in the Spoilerino channel, I said GGC9 before the second game was over because I thought TSM was done. I thought C9 had this in the bag that there was zero chance TSM was coming back. The way the first 2 games looked, I thought that C9 was going to 3-0. I didn't give TSM a chance at that point to win a game. And then Bjergsen proved why I like him so much. On top of it, it was a great storyline because it was Game 3 was Bjergsen's 1000th playoff game in NA. They talked about it during the broadcast. You
mean 1000th game?
No. If it wasn't 1000th, it was his 100th. Like it was his. It was 100th. Either his 100th or 1000th playoff game.
It was definitely 100th.
I could see 100th playoff game, but 1000, I'm like doing math.
Maybe I'm putting him too high up there.
100. I could see 1000th like game though. Like he's played that many.
It was playoff game, so we'll go with 100.
By the way, his record previous to that game was 61-38 in competitive play. Up until that point, so really good record.
But anyway, so it was his 100th playoff game. They're down to 2-0. And he is the reason why they win. He puts the team on his back. He plays a collie. So again, he's playing a champion, like an aggressive, like assassin-y type character champion, which is what I've consistently said I love seeing him on. So I was really happy to see him play that, because it could have gotten flexed up to Broken Blade, but it didn't. And he proceeded to just dominate that game, and it turned around the entire series. I think that it lifted a weight off of the rest of his teammates. I think that there were nerves going into the series because they're playing up against another humongous name in C9 and the most accomplished team internationally in the region in C9 against one of the best coaches in the region. Not one of, probably like the best coach in the region in Reapered. They come out and stomp the first two games. All the more reason for these young guys like Broken Blade and Acadian to crumble, right? And to like be shaken in their boots. But watching the captain of the ship come out and dominate a game, carry them to a victory, I feel like it lifted a weight off of them that they were able to then play. And he even said in the interview afterwards that he thought that losing those first two games was a little bit of a blessing because it took all the pressure off of them. They had nothing to lose. They went in as a team that had nothing to lose, and they could play just freely, and they did. And it was amazing to watch. As a series, it was amazing to watch, I felt. But Game 5 especially, TSM outdrafted C9. They said during the cast that the players actually said, I remember playing this comp, or playing against this comp in one of their other series. I don't remember who was the team they were playing, but they're like, this comp is like really good. Let's play it. And ultimately it's what they drafted. And C9, this game was the only time that the team who got to picked blue side. They did it so they could pick Rek'Sai, which, by the way, how the fuck strong is Rek'Sai? Rek'Sai was played in so many games this week, EU and NA, and won right most of them. This was one of the exceptions because C9 switched to blue side specifically to take that champion away from TSM because it's the only one that Acadian had looked good on the last two series. Acadian picks Kindred. I honestly don't remember what the rest of the comp was, but ultimately it was a comp that said you're not going to dive and be successful, and that's what C9 had picked, was a dive comp that in every other matchup has been extremely successful. But TSM...
I think you're forgetting that Bjergsen played his best champion this game too.
Did he play Zillion?
Played his good old Zillion. So even if you wanted to kill someone, you couldn't.
Well, exactly. So, like, you're not going to be successful if you dive, and they weren't. And like I said, end of game 2, I put a message in there saying GG C9 had zero hope. The moment TSM won their last team fight in game 5 and I knew that the game was over, I went back to Discord. You can look at the timestamps. They're about like 2 hours or something apart. And I said, holy fuck yeah, because I was so goddamn excited that TSM pulled out a reverse sweep against C9 to go to finals. And I'm so excited to see them back in finals, and this should be another great matchup. But before we get into it, Sanders, you said that you had some more comments on this year.
Yeah, I have to criticize this series a lot, actually. So
hater.
Repeat after me. an exciting series does not mean good League of Legends was played. An exciting series doesn't mean good League of Legends was played.
That's fair.
I think the series was a perfect example of this. Now,
I'm not gonna repeat you.
I'm not gonna totally bash this series because 60% of the series I thought was good League of Legends.
Okay, at least you gave it a majority.
Well, no, here's the problem with 60% of it being good League of Legends. 40% of it were Cloud9 wins. The 2-0 was clean, amazing League of Legends. The first 2 games was super clean, very clean by Cloud9. They had their draft. They played the Sonataric. They had the Hecarim. They perfectly executed what they wanted to do. Same thing with Game 2. Game 3 was a fucking mess. It was an absolute mess, and Bjergsen managed to pull everything.
It was a beautiful mess.
He pulled everything from under like the rug that Cloud9 was in the game.
It was like a pull lock or something, whatever that art.
Game 4 was pretty clean League of Legends too, but this time it was by TSM.
Hold on, you mean a Pollock? Like a
That's
Jackson
it.
Pollock?
I was close.
Oh,
I don't know art, so I was just throwing it.
I don't know art.
That was the first one that came to mind, and it wasn't even right.
So Game 4 was pretty clean League of Legends by TSM here too. Niski tried playing Zed. Didn't. If you ask me, whatever team gets Zoe, I think already has an advantage. Because I am thoroughly convinced Zoe doesn't have a counter matchup. I don't give a fuck if you have Syndra, which is considered the counter matchup. Like
Sonatark is, and we saw that in FlyQuest.
Well, I meant like in the mid lane. Like
I know.
If Zoe is not, I think the only quote unquote counter to her is you have to provide jungle pressure on her. Because if you don't provide jungle pressure on her, she has to do whatever the hell she wants in the lane. So I'm thoroughly convinced there's not a true counter to this champion. There might be soft counters like Syndra, but there's no hard counter. So Bjergsen had Zoe, and I think Niski played Zed thinking it would be a hard counter to Zoe because Zoe does not play well against people who get on top of her. But ultimately, it didn't matter. Again, because I feel like if Zoe plays her matchup well, even if it's a quote-unquote counter pick, she's fine. And she's one of the few champions who can be like, Ezreal's kind of the same way too. You can pick a quote-unquote counter matchup to Ezreal, but as long as he plays the matchup well, he's fine. And that's why Ezreal's such a safe pick as well. So they had the advantage in the draft, in my opinion, and they executed very well in the sense that Acadian in game 4. He had full control of the jungle, completely shut out Zenskaren, who had an effect on the first bit of the series. And Smoothie had quite a few good follow-ups on Acadian's Rek'Sai. So ultimately, I give a lot of credit to Smoothie and Acadian for this, despite the fact that Bjergsen and Sven did a lot of work. I won't shame on Broken Blade either, because Broken Blade did a good job. But Acadian and Smoothie did a lot of, like, the most work, I feel, in Game 4, which was, in my opinion, TSM's only clean game. Game 5 was also a fucking mess as well. Game 5 was a lot of back and forth. Like I said, super exciting, but I don't think it was clean by either team. And I kind of agree with how Reginald thought about this series. His comment was, any team could have won this series, and that's really how I feel about this series. And that doesn't comfort me whatsoever going into finals, because in my opinion, TSM didn't deserve to win this series, mostly because they played one good game out of 5. That's concerning to me. Cloud9 played 2 good games. And it's kind of ironic that the team who played 2 better games, lost. Or one more better game than the other team lost the series. Game 3 and 5 was just kind of one team had to win it. Right? Bjergsen did do a lot of heavy lifting Game 3. No lie. But Game 3 felt like one of these teams has to win. And because Bjergsen did a lot of heavy lifting, TSM won. And then going into Game 5, it was a lot of the same things. Like Cloud9 had great dragon control. They had the gold lead at 20 minutes. It was 3K, which isn't a ton, but they had the gold lead. And Cloud9 just had control. And they kind of forfeited it. And what happened was TSM being able to get a Baron, and TSM was able to win off that. But it wasn't clean either. It was very messy. So going into final, like I said, a lot of people can disagree with me. But I think disagreeing with it gets lost in the excitement of the series. Because like I said, when I watched this series, hella hype. The series was so hype. Oh my god, I loved watching the series as a viewer. But when I reflected on it, I was like, this is concerning going into finals. Because I kind of wish TSM had 2 clean games, or even all 3 of the games they won were clean. Sometimes that's not how it happens, though. Sometimes you got to win messy best of 5s, right? Sometimes that's what happens.
I think sometimes it looks messy when 2 teams are evenly matched.
That's another thing I wanted to talk about, too. Is if someone wants to argue they're evenly matched, if these 2 teams are really evenly matched, I give neither team a chance to beat Team Liquid. Which is still a concern to me. I
think both of these teams would have had a chance against Team Liquid.
I'm sticking with what I said last week. If Cloud9 would have won this, I wouldn't have given Cloud9.
That's fair. That's your prerogative. I think that the top are good enough to beat each other on any given week.
I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, Tanner. I really hope TSM wins because I've seen Team Liquid enough internationals to know what they're gonna do. I've seen TSM enough.
I was gonna say TSM's been to more.
Yeah, but the difference
just not
is,
recently.
The difference is though TSM hasn't been there in a while. And I kind of want to see what this version of TSM can do with Zen, Acadian, Broken Blade. Zen and Bjergsen and Broken Blade have all had success internationally. Broken Blade more in the minor leagues, but nevertheless has had success internationally. Acadian and Smoothie would be... Actually, Smoothie's had success too. So, Acadian would be the only brand new one. I'm not going to shit on the series for being bad, because it wasn't bad. It was very exciting. I am just not...
You just weren't thrilled with the level of play.
I wasn't thrilled with the level of play. And if anyone wants to point to me, well, are all best of 5s like that? I'll tell you no, and you need to go watch the 2016 SKT versus KT.
I think that you need to set... I think you need to set aside the epitome and realize that
I was gonna say,
often than not, the games are like TSM C9, and that's actually what is.
There's another amazing best of 5 though. No, it wasn't a best of 5. It was a best of 3 that I think epitomizes how good going to the full
that's still only 2 series out of a lot.
And that was Team Liquid versus Team Impulse.
That was a good series too.
2015. That was an amazing series. I mean, you're a fanboy because Team Liquid won it.
Well, but at the same time, again, not every series is gonna be if you look at every series and expect it to be KT SKT, God help you.
But I found an NA series that was Team Liquid versus Team Impulse.
And that's fair. I'm not saying the series couldn't have been better.
That's still only one.
Or another one I could think of was also G2 Fnatic from 2017, 2 years ago. That was a best of 5, and that was some amazing. Wow.
I've even so. I guess for anybody who doesn't know, this is Sanders' mindset with League of Legends just in general. I've played games with him, and he's always that's not 100% play. I don't want to do it, which it's fine. I enjoy League of Legends in a different way than Sanders does. Sanders looks at it very step by step. This is the best way to play, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that good League of Legends doesn't necessarily always have to be, we won laning phase. We had all of the advantages with the objectives on the map, and we were able to make no missteps through the entire game because that only happens 5% of the time. And so
I wouldn't even say I think of it that way because the way
I would say that.
Well, because the way the Liquid Team Impulse game ended was 23 kills to 21. It was a bloodbath. But they both played their team fights really well. Whereas when I watched this TSM Cloud9, it was a bloodbath game. But I didn't think either team played the team fights well. I think they both fucked up a lot.
I think TSM played a lot of team fights real well.
And and kills just happened.
I was very excited while watching it.
I imagine you were. So, I definitely am optimistic for TSM. I will say that in the sense that I really liked how TSM has pulled themselves since the middle of the season. A large part of this, and this might be me fanboying a bit, a large part of this has been Acadian going above my expectations when I already had high expectations for him. I've had high expectations for him since he was on Echo Fox. When I saw his couple pop-off games on a really shitty 2-win Echo Fox team, I was like, this kid has a lot of potential, and I wish he was on a better team. And then he went to Optic, and it wasn't much better, but he still was a player on Optic where I was like, I really like Acadian, and I really wish he'd be on a decent team. And then he went to TSM, which is where I wanted him to go at the end of the season, because I looked at all the teams, and I'm like, TSM would be the best fit. I'm like, I know they got Greg, but TSM would be the best fit. And they got him, and I was like, yes, this is what I want. And I had high expectations, and he has exceeded them. I honestly think, I mean, maybe this is spoiling a bit when I think of the Team Liquid TSM match, but I honestly think a core advantage that Team Liquid can have is Acadian over Smithy. And that's really hard to say because Smithy's a very good jungler. But Acadian has done very, very well with Split.
I don't agree because unfortunately he has done really well lately, though it's only been on Rek'Sai. And the one game of Kindred. Like, I think even Bjergsen or somebody came out afterwards and said, I think that's the best game I've ever seen him play on Kindred. And I'm glad that he saved it for game 5 against C9, but I would really like to see him be able to play well on more than just one champion. Especially since Jarvan doesn't seem to be cutting it for anybody. And that seems to be the only other pick that people are picking. So, but I don't know. I'm super hyped. Should we start talking about the TSM?
Yeah, let's do it. So I have to go first.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
I think we know which way you're going.
Okay, so I actually want to go by the step by step. So in the top lane, we have Broken Blade and Impact. It's Impact. I gotta pick Impact here.
Top down.
I think Broken.
Top down.
I think Broken Blade has had a great not rookie season, but rookie NA season.
To me, it's a rookie season. I don't fucking care that he came from wherever, Turkey.
I mean, he came from a league that he played really well. He played at MSI.
No, anyway, that's fine. I get why he's not a rookie, but he's a rookie.
He's a rookie to NA. He's a rookie to NA.
He's my rookie.
Anyway, so he had a pretty good season, I would say, and he's had some games where I'm like, wow, hey, look at Broken Blade. But then he's had some other games where I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of what I expected from a TCL player. So, what the hell is that note? Oh. Anyway. I gotta give it to Impact, especially because we're in playoff Impact mode. He's always been a guy that's, whenever he goes to high stakes, he plays way better. In the jungle, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still gonna give it to Acadian. I really liked what I've seen from Acadian this season. I think a big part of this too is I've not liked what I've seen from half of the season. That's a big part of it too.
Bro, that's just Smithy in a nutshell, man. Like, you gotta get him on a good day, or else, you know.
But he hasn't been on a good day for a while.
He was on a good day this weekend.
I think a large part of that, though. Was that the rest of it.
That's fine. He can just exist and have the team play well around him. I just need him to not, you know, like Sejuani his way to an 0-3, you know, like that's like,
to not go brain dead.
Yeah, you know.
So I actually give Acadian the advantage here, which is 1-1. Okay, so this is what might surprise you. I firmly believe Bjergsen's going to kick Jensen's ass. This is weird for me to say because for the last couple of years I've been saying Jensen's better than Bjergsen. That's not a consensus, but when you've watched Jensen versus Bjergsen, especially when Jensen was on Cloud9, he was beating Bjergsen consistently.
I think this is the evenest mid lane matchup that Bjergsen has in NA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But like, even when TSM was still beating Cloud9, Jensen was beating Bjergsen So on a 1-to-1 level, Jensen was better for a long time, actually. And it finally came to a head when Cloud9 started winning more than TSM, right? Then it was like, oh shit, maybe we should consider Jensen bigger than Bjergsen. And it's like, well, no shit. He has been for a while, at least in the 1-to-ones. So, and that's the train I've been for the last couple of years. And it's so weird now because now that I see the Jensen-Bjergsen matchup, I'm like, yeah, Jensen has disappointed me this split. And I firmly believe Bjergsen's going to hand it to Jensen, which is not something I would normally say. Normally, I would give it to Jensen hands down, but I firmly believe Bjergsen's going to hand it to Jensen. I think Jensen has had a slightly down split, might be because he's on a new team, not in a comfort zone, and Bjergsen's in a mode. He's been in a mode for a few weeks now.
So, I love Scara's tweet, by the way. So you've brought up a couple of pro tweets. So Scara, during that game 3, he tweeted out, he's like, I love how LCS keeps putting the camera on Bjergsen's face to see if he'll show any emotion.
No, he doesn't. He shows none.
He's like, he's not going to. He's just too damn good.
He's a man on a mission. So, right now it looks like I have the advantage in TSM's favor. But my MVP of the split, and I don't know if they've announced MVP yet, but my MVP of the split is Core JJ. And in my opinion, Doublelift is still the best player in NA. So when you got Doublelift and Core JJ versus Ven and Smoothie, I really like Ven and I really like Smoothie, but I'm sorry, I'm picking Core JJ over Smoothie. And I'm always going to pick Doublelift over any other AD. Probably in the West outside of Reckless. Yeah, I'm picking Doublelift over any other AD carry besides Reckless. So that's a 3-2 advantage to Team Liquid for me. And I actually Team Liquid 3-2. I think this will actually be super close.
I hope either way that it's close. I'm going to do almost exactly what I did last week because much as I love TSM being in the finals and as excited as I was to watch them beat C9, like last week, I thought C9 was the better team, and ultimately, after the first 2 games, I kind of think that it was them shitting the bed more than TSM like being the better team, because the first 2 games C9 had TSM's number like way more than TSM had C9's number in the 3 games they won.
Kind of like what I was talking about, right? Where like Cloud9 had 2 clean games and TSM had 1, and then like games 3 and 5 were like either team could have won it kind of thing.
Yeah, I just don't use the word clean, I guess, like you do, because I still think it's clean games. I just don't think that, like, I think that C9 dominated TSM, even though they didn't dominate. I still think that they played cleanly.
Does this trick work on camera? Does it work on camera? It does. Look at that. Jiggling pencil. Anyway.
Sanders is a child.
I have always told people I might be approaching 23. I turned 23 in a month, by the way. I'm a child at heart. And I think that's what will make me a great high school teacher. I'm a child at heart.
Yeah. My mom says the same thing. She's almost 60.
I aspire to be your mom at 60.
So anyway, back to the series. I think TL is going to be the better team. I think that they probably should win the series. I'm again, like I said last week, I'm again going to pick TSM though, because I want to will it into happening. I guess, but no, I think TSM, like, the arguments can be made. TSM has beat TL both of the games they played in the regular split. TSM has played amazingly in the second half and has only dropped, including the series against C9, 3 games in the entire second half? All of them to C9, I believe, actually. TSM has talent across the map. if I go step by step, I think being reminded that playoff impact is a different beast, he will have the advantage of Broken Blade. Although I will point out here that I think that Broken Blade has actually been better than he's been given credit for. Like, I think that he has received some praise, but I also hear a lot of negative about him being like the weak wing of TSM, and I don't think that's the case. I think he's actually like a heartbeat of TSM.
Who do you think's the weak link of TSM? There's always a weakest player on a team.
Probably, if I had to say, I would say that it's either Smoothie or Acadian.
I'm salty. Anyway.
I love both of those players, and I think that they are just as big of a part as to why TSM is as successful as they are, which is why I'm not saying I think that either of them should be replaced, but if you had to make me pick the weakest link of the team, they can still be a strong player, but the weakest part of a team, and that's why I pick them, is Smoothie has had some questionable things, and I feel that there have been times where he hasn't looked like he fit in with TSM. And Acadian, I just went over how I think that his champion pool right now is Rek'Sai, and I wish that it was bigger. If that was the case, then I don't think he would be part of the list because he's played really, really well. But I just would like to see him be able to play really, really well on than just Rek'Sai, because I think teams are starting to not let... I think that teams are seeing this and they're not going to let him play Rek'Sai, because of how strong Rek'Sai is and how well he plays. So that was top lane. Jungle, I love that you give Acadian the edge, but I think that it's at best even. Otherwise, I still think Smithy has, even though he had a little bit of, or a couple games there at the end of the regular split when TL was faltering, he had some bad games. I still think that he's the better jungler. Like I said, I think that this is the most even matchup that Bjergsen has in the mid lane, and I would almost say that it's even. If I had to give it a percent, I would say that Bjergsen maybe is like favored at most 60-40. The bot lane, I completely agree with you that Double Lift has proven over and over and over again that he is the best bot laner. Core JJ very well might and probably should get the league MVP for the split. I don't think that Sven is a slouch in his own right, and I think,
not at all.
but I think that Core JJ is better than Smoothie, and again, I think that Double Lift probably like 65, or 70%, 65, 35, 70, 30, over Sven. So I think that TL should win this series. But I'm picking TSM, and I want it to go 5. So I'm just picking 3-2 because this should be as hype as TSM C9 was, and it went 5, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. Like, as a viewer, I think that it was awesome that it went to 5. I hope that this one does the same thing, especially since it's the only series we're going to get this weekend.
I'm with you on the 5-game thing. I so badly want to see... I think I wouldn't want to see what I saw in the SKT versus KT series, because that is forever my favorite best of 5, and the reason it is just because KT pulled out the Misfortune support. They pulled out one of my favorite AD carries, put it at support, cheesed 2 wins out of SKT, and SKT had to ban it the rest of the series. They had no idea how to deal with it. They thought it was a mistake. They let it go a second game. KT played it a second game. Raffle stomped him with it, and SKT was like, shit, this is legitimate. We can't allow them to do this anymore. And then SKT proceeded to win. I feel like this best of 5, I want more to be like the Team Liquid, Team Impulse from 2015, the best of 3, because those 2 teams were very even. They had to play a best of 3 to decide who got first seed, because they both tied for first seed at the end of the split. and they went punch for punch. It was bloody. It was, you could maybe argue messy, but I felt like fights were very calculated, and it was the most exciting thing ever. And the coolest thing was when Team Impulse made a call to get this was back when Drakes were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buffs, if you remember that.
Yeah.
You got buffs based upon how many Drakes you had. They were getting Drake 4, I think, which is the strongest one, if I remember back then. 4 was the strongest one, and
I think you're right.
Team Liquid just made the decision to run it down mid, while Team Impulse made the Dragon Call, and it was so nutty.
Essentially every team in EU right now.
Yeah. You run it down mid when they're doing Elder Dragon.
does.
You run it down mid. Oh, the enemy team's doing Elder, run it down mid. But no, they just decided, screw the team fight, we're just going to run it down mid because we have the placement advantage, right? And that's how they won it. And it was a very smart call. And it was super fun, super entertaining. And I really hope that's how this Team Liquid TSM game is that it's I hope it's bloody. I hope they go punch for punch. I want this to be like an arena fight. Where
You want it to be action-packed.
Yes. That's what I want it to be, and that's what I need it to be.
All right, Tanner. So we know you're picking Team Liquid.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Fair judgment.
Yeah.
What's the game score?
What do you think of TSM? I gotta ask you. Instead of what do you think of Team Liquid, what do you think of TSM going?
I think TSM is scary, not because I think they're like overwhelmingly better than TL, but they have all of the pieces necessary to kind of pull an upset. And that does scare me a little bit, because man, I didn't think they were gonna beat C9, and obviously that happened. And clearly C9 probably could have played a little bit better, but I mean, TSM did well to capitalize on it, and Bjergsen has this just kind of innate ability to rally his teammates around him. So TSM can win, and they've beaten TL before.
Yeah, they 2-0 in the split. Remember that. So
going into this is my thought. Either TL... I don't see this going 3-1. Either TL sweeps them, or we go to, 5-game series of just, like, the most insanely close bullshit that I don't want to deal with.
You don't want to watch.
Tanner's just sitting there with a stomach ache and
yeah. So now I'm thinking to myself, which one's more likely? Do they get ahead like Cloud9 did and then actually finish the job, or do they also falter, and does TSM kind of show, like, do the nerves come into play? All these different things. It's hard to say exactly.
What does he do?
I don't want to pick a 3-1 because I feel like it's not going to be 3-1. I feel like as soon as TSM wins a game, this goes to 5 games. And I think if TSM... Oh, no. Shit.
I would argue TSM is good enough to win at least one game.
They are.
I don't think this could be a 3-0, but that's just my opinion.
We've seen...
And
we
remember,
thought that...
TSM's already 2-0. They already have
that. We thought that it couldn't be a 3-0 when TL beat C9 3-0 either, though.
Or FlyQuest, yeah.
No, I remember that.
I meant last year.
Last year. Gotcha.
No, we thought Team Liquid. Remember, Cloud9 came up from the ashes, and they looked like this monstrous team coming in, and we were like, "Oh, this is totally gonna be like a 3 favor," but like Cloud9's gonna give them everything, and then Team Liquid fucking destroyed. It wasn't even close. Oh my god!
It was like a 20-minute series.
The third, fourth place match was better than the finals. I'm sure for you, Tanner, you had a lot of.
Yeah.
But like as a viewer, I was like third.
Right. No, that's fair. Okay.
I honestly don't. Despite Selceus's point here, you have to give at least a game to Team TSM in my opinion, only because they've already 2-0.
I gave 3 of them to TSM.
I mean, yeah, but I think you have to give at least a game.
Yeah.
Already 2-0.
Here's the thing. I don't think there's a world in which a 3-1 happens for some reason.
No, I've had that feeling before. I get it.
FYI,
it never pans out.
Never pans out.
Okay, I'll pick TL 3-1 against my better judgment. Because again, you're right. It'd be wrong of me to not give TSM the respect and think that they'll at least take a game. But it could be another situation of like, you know, these two teams clash after not playing each other for a while, and TSM just rolls, or TL just rolls.
My favorite meme I saw from this weekend was they called Cloud9 Rock, Team Liquid Paper, and TSM Scissors, right? Because that's how the regular season happened.
Yeah.
And it showed Bjergsen's face photoshopped onto the scissors, right? And it showed a rock being split in half, and it said, "What rock?" And then it showed a piece of paper flying in the wind that was Team Liquid.
It's completely possible. It's again
that was literally the funniest meme I saw of the week. Rock split in half from scissors, and it was like, what rock?
So I probably should have asked this question before we all made our picks, but my question to you, Tanner, is this the scarier team? Do you think that TSM is the scarier team out of or would you have thought that C9 was the scarier team?
If I'm Team Liquid, I'd rather play Cloud9 because I've owned their ass.
I would rather play
Cloud9
too because we've had Cloud9's number, and B, I like the matchups in every lane. If you're against Cloud9, mid lane, I can't get over the fact that I think Bjergsen's gonna win that lane. And Bjergsen himself could just be a catalyst for all sorts of shit.
God mode. Remember, God mode.
Yeah, and he's like you said, he's been in mode. So, yeah, I would have rather had C9.
So
but here we are.
TSM's the scary matchup. All right. The last thing I was going to mention, and I guess I just didn't see a good place to fit it in, was with the Sona Tarek bot lane cheese that's going on right now. I really like the way that the opposing team handled the situation in both of the series that we saw it. In Game 2, coming in and banning the Tarek out of the two options. Sona will never get played on her own without some other piece that makes it a viable option at the...
Unless you're Afromu, you'll play Sona support.
But Tarek has been played before without it needing to be a cheesy pick. I don't really like saying cheesy, but I can't think of a better thing right now. So, yeah, gimmicky is probably a better word. But yeah, Tarek can actually be played and is very strong in team fights. So, like, being able to throw that ult down on everybody. And in fact, I think there's somebody in Academy that was playing it not in a Sona Tarek lane, and to pretty good success. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point too. It didn't really fit into our conversation, but I think that's kind of all I have to say on these matchups.
All right, cool. So we got Team Liquid. Oh well, I got Team Liquid. Tanner's got Team Liquid.
I kind of have Team Liquid.
Yeah, Selceus got TSM first picks though.
Yes.
I honestly think either team can win this series. I just want to look at the lane advantages. I feel like it belongs to Team Liquid, but you know, it only takes one player to win this, right? We've seen many times can take over a series. Bjergsen has that capability. Who knows? Maybe Broken Blade actually beats Impact, and then Team Liquid only has the bottom lane advantage. Or Smoothie and Sven end up outlaning, you know, Double Lift and
Core JJ.
And then the only advantages, like, I think, are like the jungle and the top lane, you know. And so then that means TSM has mid and bot lane control. They have Dragon, which is so really huge. You know, there's a lot of things that happen. So, if you ask me, I feel like what TSM needs to do to win this is they need to let Bjergsen do his thing. I think you need to let Sven and Smoothie be your sacrificial lambs because they're good enough to be your sacrificial lambs, and you need to help Broken Blade. If you help Broken Blade, I think you can win this series. But I think that's what TSM's game plan needs to be. Is you need
especially since TL focuses bot lane, so Impact won't have the help if you do
probably
go
wouldn't
up
have
there.
the help. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe Team Liquid's game plan is they think bot lane's gonna win, so they're gonna camp mid top. They're gonna ensure Jensen and Impact pop off in their lanes, right? You never know what one team is thinking, what another team is thinking, because it's kind of like what Wayne used to say on this podcast. It's specifically for fighting, UFC fighting. I don't know if either of you watched that. This quote is specifically for UFC fighting, but for anything. Everybody's got a plan before they get into the ring. Then they get into the ring, they still got their plan. But your plan gets erased once you get punched. Because in no one's plan ever are they getting punched in their plan. No one ever says, "Oh, I might get punched here," and then we're just no. That's never your plan. Your plan is never to get punched. Your plan is always to punch your opponent and knock them out, right? So everybody's got a plan until they get punched, and
yeah,
that could easily happen to Team Liquid, and that can easily happen to they could have a plan to camp bot lane at TSM and double. There goes their plan. Or Team Liquid could have this plan to camp mid lane, but then Jensen and Team Liquid could have a plan to camp mid lane, but then Bjergsen and Acadia respond to it really well. Well, there goes Team Liquid's game plan. So
yeah, it'll be fun to see. I think no matter what, we're in store for some really good series across both the regions. The only one that I think
may or may not be good as Fnatic Origin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll have to see how that pans out. Hopefully that's better than what we're thinking. Obviously for all three series, if I could see a best of 5 for all 3 series, I would love that. Right? Like
hell yeah.
As a viewer, I mean, as an analyst, I could say I want to see clean League of Legends, but I'm going to be honest. TSM Cloud9 was so fun to watch, as a viewer. And if I got those best of 5 series, even if they're not like clean, I don't care, because as a viewer, I'm entertained, and that's really why I'm here, right? I'm here to be entertained. I'm not here to watch a stomp. I'm not here to watch this year's Super Bowl. that was horrible.
That wasn't a stomp. That was just a defensive game.
I thought it was a pretty defensive stomp by the Patriots, but
I mean, it's not a football podcast.
No,
we can talk about it.
You could talk about the pass interference that could have.
No, I was just gonna say I think the Rams played pretty good defense too. But
yeah, they played pretty good defense. I would say that, but there's a difference between being shut out 3 and out all the time like the Rams were, and then letting the Patriots go 50 yards,
bending and not breaking. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that point. Not talking about Super Bowl. That happened months ago. No one cares. Unless you're from Boston and you like the Patriots, then you probably still care. Anyway, so Team Liquid versus TSM is our finals. Fnatic Origin is our semi-finals. I'll just call it the match to play in finals. And then our finals, according to us, is G2 Fnatic, and we all got Fnatic taking the whole. That's
which is surprising.
Maybe it's because I thought Fnatic would win at the very beginning. I'm not sure if it's that surprising, because even when they were 1 in panic, but we already had a precedent set with Cloud9, right? A storied organization in a region that pulled back, right? And Fnatic was also that kind of thing. A storied team, a storied organization that should be able to pull it back. Maybe they would. Maybe. I think it's impressive that they came back from 1 in 5 and that they're in finals. But maybe it's not as shocking because we had already seen it done literally just 6 months ago or 7 months ago.
The thing I think is shocking is that we all have them picked as the winner, though, because G2 is still the super team and was dominant through most of the split. So that's the only thing I think is shocking, is just that we all had them clearly as the winner.
I think one thing we've forgotten ever since Fnatic went 1 in 5 is this is still our runner-up world championship with just one player being an exception, right? Broxa, Bippo, Reckless, and Hillsing, like they are our runner-up world champion. Something to think about too. So But then you got them against the super team of EU. It's kind of an exciting label. World champion runner-ups versus super team. It's a cool headline to put.
That has one of those runner-ups.
Yeah, they need to beat Origin first though before we get ahead of ourselves.
Right. So
there's a reason we play the games. We can call all we want based upon talent, percentages, but there's a reason you play the games. So that is going to be it from all of us. You can find me on Twitter at yes. You can find well, I don't know. Tanner hasn't been streaming lately, but you can find him at...
We'll figure it out eventually. Don't worry about it.
No, I didn't even mean like for this. I meant like streaming in general.
No, I know. I still have to figure that part out too.
Okay, gotcha. You can find him at twitch.tv/Blitzerama, and well, you can find Selceus on our Discord.
Cool. I still look at it every day, so
that's typically where he participates. So, anyways, from Jamie Selceus Christensen, or Jamie Selceus Christensen, I should say.
That's right.
It's not to the left of me. It's right here. And then below him, Tanner Blitz. I am Jacob Sminted Sanders, and we will see you all on the Rift.